What if I told you that a beige box weighing just 16.5 pounds would revolutionize the entire world as we know it? In January 1984, while most computers required users to memorize complex commands just to open a file, one machine dared to be different. The Apple Macintosh 128K didn't just change computing. It changed everything. This is the story of the blueprints, the vision, and the obsession that created the computer that brought technology to the people. The year was 1979. Personal computers existed, but they were toys for hobbyists and tools for specialists. If you wanted to use one, you needed to learn programming languages, memorize command lines, and basically speak the computer's language. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, had just visited Xerox PRS, a research facility in Palo Alto, California. What he saw there would haunt his dreams and fuel his ambition for the next 5 years. At Xerox PRS, researchers had developed something extraordinary: a graphical user interface, a mouse, windows that overlapped on screen. Instead of typing cryptic commands, users could simply point and click. Jobs immediately recognized what the Xerox executives somehow missed. This wasn't just a neat trick. This was the future of computing, and he was determined to bring it to the masses. But creating the Macintosh wasn't about copying Xerox's ideas. It was about perfecting them, miniaturizing them, and making them affordable. The original blueprint for what would become the Macintosh 128K started with a different project entirely. Engineer Jeff Raskin had begun working on a low-cost computer for everyday people. He named it Macintosh after his favorite Apple, the Macintosh, though he spelled it differently to avoid trademark issues. Raskin's vision was noble but modest. He wanted a simple, affordable machine that sold for around $1,000. But when Steve Jobs took over the project in 1981, everything changed. Jobs had bigger dreams, and he was willing to push his team to the breaking point to achieve them. The blueprints evolved from Raskin's simple design into something far more ambitious and revolutionary. The engineering challenges were immense. The team needed to create a computer that was powerful enough to run a graphical interface, compact enough to fit in a small case, and affordable enough for regular people to buy. Leading the hardware design was Burrell Smith, a young engineer with extraordinary talent. Smith's circuit board designs were works of art, cramming functionality into impossibly small spaces. The blueprint called for a Motorola 68000 processor running at 7.83 MHz. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 1/1,000,000th the speed of a modern smartphone processor. Yet this tiny amount of computing power had to drive an entire graphical operating system. Smith's circuit board design was so efficient that it became legendary in engineering circles. He managed to reduce the chip count dramatically compared to competing designs, which lowered costs and improved reliability. The memory specification in the original blueprints called for 128 kilobytes of RAM. Yes, kilobytes. Your smartphone probably has about 50,000 times more memory. This severe limitation would later become one of the Macintosh's biggest criticisms, but it was necessary to hit the target price point. The computer also included 64 kilobytes of ROM containing the operating system's core functions. But the Macintosh's true innovation wasn't in its processor or memory. It was in how users would interact with it. The blueprint specified a built-in 9-inch black and white screen with a resolution of 512 by 342 pixels. This doesn't sound impressive today, but in 1984, most computers displayed only text, not graphics. The Macintosh could display actual pictures, different fonts, and multiple windows. The design documents also specified something that seems obvious now, but was revolutionary then: an integrated mouse. The mouse had been invented at Xerox PRS, but their version cost $300 to manufacture. Apple's industrial design team, led by the brilliant but perfectionistic Jobs, worked with outside designers to create a mouse that could be manufactured for just $15. The blueprint showed a simple, single, button design that fit comfortably in one hand. The physical design of the Macintosh itself was equally important. Jobs insisted on an all-in-one design. The computer screen and disk drive would all fit into one compact case. No separate components, no tangle of cables, just one beige box you could carry with a handle built into the top. The blueprint specified exact dimensions: 13.6 inches tall, 9.6 inches wide, and 10.9 inches deep. Every millimeter was planned and argued over. Jobs was obsessive about the details. He insisted that the case have no cooling fan, believing the noise would disturb users. This meant the engineers had to design special heat dissipation through ventilation slots in the case. He fought with his designers over the exact shade of beige. He even insisted that the circuit board be beautifully laid out, even though users would never see it. Real artists sign their work, he said, and indeed, the inside of the Macintosh case bears the signatures of the entire development team. The software blueprints were equally revolutionary. Bill Atkinson led the development of QuickDraw, the graphics routines that made the Macintosh interface possible. His code was so efficient that it could draw circles, lines, and windows faster than seemed physically possible given the hardware limitations. The operating system featured proportional fonts, meaning letters took up different amounts of space, just like in printed books. This seems normal now, but in 1984, it was magic. Andy Hertzfeld, one of the key software engineers, worked directly on the system's software. The blueprints for the operating system specified a completely new way of organizing information. Files would be represented by icons. Programs would run in windows. Users would select items by clicking on them with the mouse. A menu bar at the top of the screen would provide access to commands. The trash can icon, the folder icons, the smiling Mac that appeared at startup. All of these were carefully designed and specified in the development documents. The project faced countless obstacles. The limited memory meant programmers had to be incredibly creative, writing code that did more with less. The lack of a cooling fan meant the components ran hot, requiring careful selection of parts that could handle the heat. The aggressive schedule, driven by Jobs' demanding personality, meant the team worked ridiculous hours, often sleeping in the office. There were heated arguments. Jeff Raskin, the original project leader, eventually left Apple due to conflicts with Jobs. Some team members cracked under the pressure. But others thrived, united by the belief that they were creating something that would change the world. Jobs called them pirates and even flew a pirate flag over their building. They were rebels, working outside the normal corporate structure of Apple. By late 1983, the blueprints had been transformed into working prototypes. The machine was real, but it needed a launch that would match its revolutionary nature. Jobs partnered with advertising agency Chiat Day and director Ridley Scott to create a commercial unlike any that had come before. The 1984 commercial, aired during the Super Bowl, portrayed a dystopian world saved by the arrival of the Macintosh. It never showed the computer clearly or explained what it did, but it created buzz and anticipation. On January 24, 1984, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage at the Flint Auditorium in Cupertino, California. He reached into a bag and pulled out the Macintosh 128K. The small beige box that had lived in blueprints and prototypes for years was now real, and it was about to introduce itself. Jobs inserted a floppy disk, and the Macintosh spoke. "Hello, I'm Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag," it said in a synthesized voice. The audience erupted in applause. The Macintosh 128K that shipped to customers faithfully followed those carefully crafted blueprints. It included MacWrite, a word processor that could display multiple fonts and styles on screen exactly as they would print. "What you see is what you get," or WYSIWG, became the phrase to describe this revolutionary capability. It also included MacPaint, a drawing program that let anyone create graphics using the mouse. Suddenly, computers weren't just for calculations and text, they were creative tools. The initial reception was enthusiastic but mixed. Technology enthusiasts marveled at the interface. Regular people found it approachable and fun. But critics pointed out serious limitations. The 128 kilobytes of memory wasn't enough to run large documents or complex programs. The computer had no internal hard drive, only a single 400 kilobyte floppy disk drive. The lack of a cooling fan caused the machine to run uncomfortably hot, and the price, $495, was far higher than Jeff Raskin's original vision. Sales started strong but then slowed. Many businesses weren't ready to adopt such a radical departure from established computing. The limited software library meant the Macintosh couldn't do everything that business users needed. It would take several years and several improved models before the Macintosh achieved mainstream success. The Macintosh 128K released just 9 months later with 4 times the memory, addressed the most glaring limitation. But despite its initial struggles,